Hey, what's up, Geekish fans? I'm Bino, it's Derek over there, and it's time for another podcast!
Woo!
It is the season of giving, it's November, which the Thanksgiving season, which is not celebrated everywhere, but United States, Canada, Grenada, St. Lucia, Liberia. Thanksgiving, a big deal of people getting together and showing thanks for things, and usually those feasts, those giving thanks times, are accompanied by big feasts. So we wanted to talk a little about some of the fictional food, because I don't know if you can tell by my waistline, I really enjoy food. And there's a lot of moments that have happened in movies and cartoons that food comes onto the screen and you really, 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 really wish you could try it. I feel like the one to get out of the way that's pretty much starts this argument for us is the feast from Hook.
Oh my God!
The imaginary Lost Boys feast, when they finally open his mind and sees all the food on the table and the big bowls of brightly colored, like, what is it, frosting or whatever it is? Whatever
it is, it looks phenomenal, and that's one of the ones. And you're right, that sticks with you, and it's always been one of those ones. It looks delicious, and then they're grabbing the big old turkey legs and just going to town. And you're just like, oh, that looks so good. But
And I gotta say, I feel like I wish I could go to a Thanksgiving Day feast like that, where they have the food fight at the end. Mm-hmm. I've never been to any kind of Thanksgiving feast where a food fight would have been an acceptable thing to happen. Like, it would have ended in spankings and screamings and people getting thrown out of the house and family members not talking to each other for years.
Yeah, I mean, that was a pain to clean up too. So, another one is, like, I don't know why. And the animation's not even that great, but I don't know why the pizza from Ninja Turtles always just, for whatever reason, on the cartoon, I'm sitting there watching, I'm like, that looks good. And, like, I like pepperoni pizza, but it's not my favorite. But for whatever reason, when they drew the pepperoni pizza on there, it's good. Or, like, the lasagna from Garfield, I don't know. It's just...
See, here's my beef. You're talking about Ninja Turtles pizza from the cartoon show?
Yeah.
But all the pizzas in the cartoon shows were like Cocoa Puffs and ranch dressing and sardines and like every crazy weird topping you could imagine thrown on a pizza. That looked good to you?
I mean, yeah. It's
like,
I'm talking about like when when it was the pepperoni pizza or like the cheese pizza, not with all the weird stuff.
Okay, so just regular. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing too, is like, you look at like the snacks from Scooby-Doo. For whatever reason, I'm not going to eat a sandwich that's, this long with all the ingredients, but like when it's on the screen, you're like...
Yeah, Shaggy's sandwiches, you always wanted to wish you could try them. But
right? So I don't know.
I realize I might be jaded against the Ninja Turtles ones too, not just because of the toppings, but that just jogged a strange memory I had of... Had to have been elementary school time, but I had some Ninja Turtle scratch and sniff stickers.
Mm.
And they had the pizza sticker. And I kid you not, that scratch and sniff pizza sticker smelled like vomit left outside in the sun for 3 weeks. It was one of the worst smells I've ever had in my life. And I smelled it, and I felt like my room smelled like that for a week after the fact. It was awful. So every time I see the cartoon Ninja Pizza, I'm like, oh, yeah, that smell.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, you're right. Well, the thing is, too, is like, with with shows like SpongeBob or something like that, with the Krusty Krab, too, again, it's just the way it's drawn makes it look good. Or like the rack of ribs from the Flintstones. I don't know why, but like, you're always like, this looks pretty good. This looks pretty good.
I've never had an urge to find what do they call it? Krabby burger?
Krabby Patty?
Krabby Patty, yeah. There's a lot of words that go together there that I don't, me and seafood don't get along together. So.
I was going to say, you and seafood don't get along at all, so that's okay.
Yeah. There is one beverage I would love to try from Fictional World. It's the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Okay, that's what I was assuming. But...
Yes, the guide refers to it as the best drink in existence, with its effects similar to having your brain smashed out by a slice of lemon wrapped around a large gold brick. And there's many drink recipes that claim to be the Pan-Galactic Gargle Blaster, even a few nerdy bars that have had things like that, but they taste nothing like getting your brains smashed by a slice of lemon with a brick. So if that actually existed, sign me up.
I don't know. I mean, there's some of the, adios drinks that we've had in our youth that I don't know if we can handle now, but that you took it and then all of a sudden you're like, where am I? What?
Yeah, the short answer is no, could not handle that anymore. But would try. We would try heartily.
I don't know why too, but like the bread from Lord of the Rings, the elven bread,
Lambus bread.
Yeah,
Isn't that a real thing?
Yeah, it is. But for whatever reason, if you see it in real life, you're like, eh. But like in the movie, you're like, I want to try it. It has that mysticism to it, right? I think that's the whole thing. Is like, you watch Harry Potter, right? You see the butterbeer. You're like, oh yeah. And yeah, we've had some good butterbeer in real life, but
it's not actually magic.
Yeah, right.
That's the problem.
And it's the chocolate frogs too. We've had them in real life, but it's not the. It's seeing it, and it doesn't have the mysticism behind it. Doesn't have that magic behind it. So
every flavor beans.
Ugh. I'm traumatized from those, but that's just like the blue milk too from Star Wars. You can make it yourself, and you're like, oh yeah, it's milk.
Yeah, but you're not squeezing out of a large reptilian mammal.
Yeah, no, that's a little weird.
I will give one though. If you're going to old school cartoon shows that had food that looks way better than it probably should, it's the honey that Pooh Bear always got out of trees.
Oh, right.
His jars of honey looked amazing. Like, have you ever seen honey when people go out there like fresh out of hive honey doesn't necessarily look the greatest.
Mm-mm.
When we get honey, we have it, and it's usually what do they call it, purified and run through some things, and it looks nice and pretty. But the fresh, super wild honey, it doesn't do much for the looks. But that stuff that Winnie the Pooh, he was all grumbly in his tumbly for, I got a little grumbly in my tumbly too. Not gonna lie.
Well, and the thing is too, and it's just I don't know if anybody else is like this. If I'm watching something like even a sitcom, and they're eating something, or and it's the subliminal messages type of thing where they're eating it or they're drinking a Coke or a Pepsi, and you're like, God, that sounds really good right now, and then you end up getting it. Yeah, right. You end up getting it, and it's just it doesn't meet that satisfaction that you actually thought you needed, and that's the thing is like, I'm not a big alcohol drinker, but man, shows make hard alcohol look so good. Like whiskey, and they're getting whiskey on the rocks. They're like, yeah, drinking it like it's apple juice on the show, right? But in life, they're sitting there drinking. You're like, yeah. So I have some every once in a while. I'll be like, oh yeah, that sounds good, and then I pour it. And I'm like, this was a bad idea. I don't know why I wanted this, but it's weird how shows get me like that, and where I'm sitting, I'm like, yeah, that sounds good, and it's exactly the same thing with Winnie the Pooh. Is that honey looks so good, and I remember being a kid watching Winnie the Pooh and going to my grandma. She had a little bear-shaped honey thing, and I'd be like, and then, nope,
yeah, the bear's crazy. I mean, there's a lot of things that do that you I was reading through a few blogs as we were talking about this idea to start the show out there. A lot of people that don't realize that some quote-unquote fictional foods are actually foods they just didn't know existed. But right. Interesting to read some of those posts from people and just question their education. But like Ratatouille and the ratatouille that was made in it. In that movie, it made it look like amazing. Everyone in the movie was in love with Ratatouille, and the way it looked, and lots of people said, I want to try Ratatouille. Well, Ratatouille was pretty much it was not a classy meal. It was leftovers and make do with whatever's there. But for some reason, it gives us a little bit of mysticism just because of the way it was in the movie. Same thing with Princess and the Frog and Tiana's beignets. There's actual pastries you can go buy. There's a Louisiana kitchen just downtown that you can go buy beignets from. They're tasty, but in the movie, some of you think that they are, these are like the best desserts ever made. I have to try. I mean, it's fried dough with some powdered sugar.
What? It's funny you bring that up. What was it? There was a movie or something where they were like talking about food in it, right? And they're saying, "Oh, it's so good. It's this. It's so delicious." And then I remember actually finding it and eating it. I was sorely disappointed.
I don't know which one you're thinking of, but I have one with that exact same line of thinking.
What, shawarma?
No,
Adventures?
no, but I did want to get shawarma after watching the end of Avengers, and I think I did actually. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the old animated version of it, and the Turkish delights that the Snow Queen gives the little boy.
Yeah.
They talked about that, and the way she said it stuck with me because it like irked me the way that they said the words Turkish delight. But I really wanted to try it because that kid ate it, and it looked like it was like the kid version of cocaine that was healthy for you. Like he just, I mean, he stepped over his own brothers and sisters just to get a few more pieces of it. Like literally threw him under the bus to death to get more Turkish delight. And I never knew what it was because in the cartoon it was just like you couldn't really see what it was. Finally, 35 years later in my life, went to a little cafe that had some desserts. Lo and behold, oh, we've got Turkish delights. No bleeping way. Give me a bag. Give me a bag. Get out there and try it. Like, oh, that's it, huh?
They're not good. In my opinion,
some powdered
they're not good.
sugar around some old Jello. Like,
oh god, dude, I don't know what it.
I love gummies and jelly type treats, but for some reason the Turkish delights were just like, okay.
I think I had the same thing. I think it was maybe it wasn't from Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but I remember hearing about Turkish delights, and I remember I got them at like holiday season last year, I think, or 2 years ago. Same thing, Years later in my life, I'm finally trying it, and I remember opening up and going, "This is weird," and then taking a bite, going, "This is not for me. This is a letdown. This is not delightful at all."
Yeah, we're actually letting the little one. She's getting really excited. She's watching a lot of YouTubers and stuff now, and they start having these other things. She wants to go try stuff, which is great because a lot of times kids don't necessarily want to try new foods. But every time she sees one of these people that she likes watching try this weird, strange food and they love it, all of a sudden, oh yeah, I gotta go try that. So there's now a sushi addict on there. We've eaten more ramen and Chinese food and Thai food in the last 3 months than I can even wrap my head around. And the next thing is she wants to make Canadian stuffing.
What's Canadian stuffing?
Well, one of the YouTubers she watches, Athmao or something like that, which probably a big deal, but I'm too old to get it. They're from Canada, and they made a Canadian Thanksgiving dinner, so they made a big deal about they're having Canadian Thanksgiving, so they had a recipe. So she's been talking for a week about making her Canadian stuffing. She's never had stuffing before. I hate stuffing, so I've never made it. So she's got all these things and wants to go make it, and I wonder if it's going to be that letdown moment or whether it's going to be really, really good.
What's the difference between Canadian stuffing and American stuffing?
They happen to be Canadian when they were making it.
That's it? So it's just stuffing?
Well, it's a stuffing mix. They caramelize some chopped up garlic and then chop up some onions and caramelize them in the pan and then throw a bunch of stuffing mix in with some cream and butter and saute it, and then it's not too different. It's just like doctored up stovetop, but they made it. They had that moment. It's not quite fictional because it's just YouTubers, but they made this meal, and I've got a little one in my house that is now super ecstatic about trying it and has these high hopes of how this stuffing is going to be the greatest thing on earth.
Have a backup of poutine ready to go.
Gotta love poutine.
Well, that's another thing is I remember seeing poutine on, whoa, my gosh, what was it? Was it the Rick Moranis Canadian movie or some 80s movie or something like that? And you look at it, you're like, I don't know, that looks a little weird. And then you eat it, and it is just manna from heaven.
Yeah, poutine's like a hug for your digestive system.
Oh my god, it's so good. I'm getting hungry, you know, just now. But I mean, here's the thing: is we've talked about the food, right? We could just babble on. In fact, I'm pretty sure we did a podcast where we talked about food from fictional stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. We did a long time ago.
And then that was we were kind of using it as a jumping off point, mainly because it's Thanksgiving, right? It's a time where you gather and stuff like that. So rather than doing the whole boring family and friends type of thing, who would you gather? That's funny. I had to say it that way. Who would you gather around your nerdy table? Like, which fictional characters would you bring to your table?
I feel like if you wanted to have that Norman Rockwell Thanksgiving feeling, I think you'd have to bring all the nicest characters around. You'd bring like Aang from Avatar and Kaylee from Firefly.
You're looking around your office right now for inspiration?
I certainly am. I mean, let's bring back Princess Leia. She can come to the table too. I feel like she makes some good table talk. Like, I feel like I would just try and find the most good-hearted, good-natured characters and throw them in one spot and just have that. Okay, there's nothing but good vibes here tonight. Where's the turkey?
Well, so who would be the uninvited guest that would put a wrench in your plans? Because that's always got to happen. If you're looking at like a sitcom standpoint, there's always that one. So who would be the one that you're like, no, but you're okay with it?
Could I alter my first one though? Can I have the Thanksgiving party co-hosted by Uncle Iroh and Deadpool?
Yes, that would be.
I feel like that's the buddy team up we need right now.
That'd be like chaotic Zen. That would be.
Okay, so deal breakers for the Thanksgiving feast at my table.
Obviously, Voldemort. Just throw that out there.
Yeah. I mean, any of the super villain type people, trying to destroy everything, that's off the table. I think we'll just go personality wise.
Could you see that? You're like, all right, it's time to carve the turkey. He's like, carve the turkey. No, go.
I feel like I love me some Jane Cobb, but I don't think he'd be a very good Thanksgiving guest.
He's very short-tempered.
Yeah, short-tempered. I don't think he'd help with the dishes. I don't think he'd carve the bird. He'd probably just rip off a piece or blow it up. It's each to their own.
Zuko, early Zuko, no. Later Zuko, yes.
Oh, he'd be good, yeah.
His sister, no.
Yeah, even later her was a little off the deep end there.
Right.
And if we got more realistic ones, I feel like I wouldn't want to have a George Costanza around. Or his parents.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that'd be a rough night. I feel like most of the cast of Friends, despite the name of their show, I wouldn't want to sit on a table with them for a few hours. Maybe Joey.
Chandler, for me.
Is Chandler just kind of...
I mean, he's my sense of humor, so bring it on. What about Dr. Cox? Yeah, see, that's a tough one. Because,
See, I wouldn't... If it was a happy-go-lucky Thanksgiving, no go. But if it's going to be the traditional Thanksgiving where there's yelling and screaming and somebody starts a fight, I would love to have him there because it would escalate it instantly to be something entertaining.
He's your drunk uncle?
That would... Yeah. Yeah,
okay, so
he could fit that role pretty well.
Well, I mean, later Dr. Cox was a little bit nicer. He could control his anger a little bit better, but
he...
yeah.
He could have also let it out at any given moment.
What about Kelso? I'm just going to stick with the Scrubs here for a second, because with Scrubs, you have such a wide dynamic of people. You got the janitor, Kelso...
I feel like a Scrubs cast reunion around a Thanksgiving table would be very much like a lot of people's actual family Thanksgivings.
if they were in character.
Yes, if they're in character.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you have Bob Kelso would be the kind of grumpy old man that is upset that things aren't the way they used to be and wants everything his way and upset that things are changing. You'd have Dr. Cox as the angry drunk uncle. You'd have JD and Elliot. The star-crossed dweeby lovers that are really awkward. Ask things the wrong question.
Turk and Carla, the couple that's been together for a while and always has some advice or some stories.
And the nurse that died. What was her name?
Laverne?
Laverne. Laverne would be hosting and cooking and keeping people in line.
That's true.
Could you imagine her coming out of the kitchen? Just, no, you sit down right now. I made Brussels sprouts.
And then the janitor would show up unannounced.
With friends.
Yep.
That'd make a good Thanksgiving show. Maybe we should. If they're not going to do a reunion, maybe we could just do a reunion bit.
Yeah, let's pitch that. Fake Doctors, Real Friends. If you guys are listening, if you check out our podcast, because we check out your podcast. No, I'm just kidding. Oh man. Well, let's see. I'm looking around too. It'd be fun to have maybe some of the. I'd say Neville would be fun from Harry Potter. I don't know if I'd actually.
Young Neville or grown up Neville?
both. Nerdy Neville would be screwing something up, but
I was gonna say he just like knocks stuff over, but
right. Hermione would be fun because could do some potions and whatnot and get things going. Ron, yeah, maybe. Harry, no.
Was your description was Hermione could be fun because she could do some potions, so we can get some things going?
God.
I'm just throwing a context here,
Moving on. Let's see here. What about Creed? Creed Bratton. There we go. That's a guest that you don't want at your Thanksgiving.
Yeah, he would have been out there. A lot of the Office characters would make for a fun Thanksgiving, but you wouldn't want to have Dwight around. I would love to have Kevin and his chili at Thanksgiving.
The chili that he spilled on the floor.
That's one.
Circles
circles back to the other part. It didn't necessarily look anything amazing, but the way he talked about it, I feel like Kevin had a secret, hidden passion for that chili, and it was probably the best chili ever. And every time I see that, I want to go make chili.
And that's the thing is like he'll sit there and describe how he makes it. I'm like, that doesn't sound good. And then you're like, but why do I want to try it?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of foods like that too in sitcoms where you're like, ugh. Well, maybe. I mean, like Rachel's holiday trifle or whatever it is, whereas like,
I forgot about that.
Where the pages were stuck together, so she made like a sweet, meaty thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't eat it, but I might try it. I'm pretty sure people have actually tried to make that, so.
Yeah, and there's people always make the copycats off of it, but
Mm-hmm.
It's always interesting too. I think that so many, especially sitcoms, a lot of animated shows that take place in Thanksgiving celebrating settings do, but most American sitcoms ended up having a few Thanksgiving episodes if they lasted more than a season or two.
Yeah, that's true.
But the Thanksgiving episodes were always odd. Because you could sum it up in a nutshell, like the TGIF series of Thanksgiving episodes. Thanksgiving was, it's not quite Christmas, everybody's celebrating. Something really, really bad happens that brings them all together. They come together last minute, have a meal. Everybody's happy and thankful because things could have gone much worse. Mm-hmm. Like that sums up 90% of every sitcom Thanksgiving episode ever, which seems like a complete cop-out to me. But there was it Modern Family that had a Thanksgiving episode where everything just all went to chaos, man.
There's been a lot of sitcoms where they have a Thanksgiving episode where, I mean, because that's that like you said, that's the formula that makes the thing is like, oh, it's Thanksgiving time, and there's always something that screws it up, and then by the end they're like, oh, Goldberg's is notorious for that. Love the show, but I mean, it's very copy and paste when it comes to like the holiday thing. Especially now that I think he's kind of ran out of life,
actual life stories.
Yeah, so I mean, you have that aspect. But and that one's just in my mind because that was last week's episode or whatever. So that's fresh right there. But I mean, especially the 80s and the 90s sitcoms were notorious. It was just the copy and paste, exactly what you said, where you knew exactly what was going to happen, but we still watched it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, holiday food on shows or cartoons, especially the holiday episodes, you're like, that looks amazing. Look at all that food. And then you get to your own Thanksgiving, you're like, Mom, why didn't you try harder?
Speaking of food, cartoons, sitcoms, this has always bugged me since I was a little kid. Have you ever, in your entire life, been
Breakfast?
To any kind of Thanksgiving feast with a cooked turkey that has the little paper things on the end of the decorated parts that they have on every animated turkey in our existence?
No.
Like, was that something that was big in the 40s or 50s that just happened to be an animation? But that is, like, the staple. Like, little turkey emojis have the little paper things stuck on the end of the turkey legs. Why? Why?
I have no idea. It makes no sense because, and that's the thing, too, is, like, you'll also look at a whole bunch of things, and we get it. They glam it up. You know, commercials for fast food restaurants, everything like that, they make them all glammy so they look appetizing. Same with the shows. It's the fruitcake thing, right? You look at a fruitcake on a show, you're like, huh. And then you see it in real life, you're like, ugh. No, thank you.
No. It's right to be the butt of many jokes.
Right? I don't know. I mean, like, we could go on, because, I mean, there's so much that you could talk about, like, who you want at your Thanksgiving meal, who you don't want there. I mean, there's plenty of you're watching, you're like, Dexter knocks on the door, you're like, no. Of course, he'd be
You're
a
not
good
allowed
carver.
here.
He'd know how to carve the turkey really well,
That's looking on the bright side.
right? And he'd have some stories. I mean, maybe we would let him in. We're not serial killers, so he wouldn't kill us, right? We're not bad people. But I mean, we could go on talking about food and everything like that, because that's one thing is I think that everybody can relate to is food. With that's why it's in a lot of episodes. That's why it's in a lot of things. You see people snacking. Robert Downey Jr. had snacks all over the Avengers set. That's why on some of them he's sitting there like just eating, because that wasn't part of the script. He just was like, "Hey, I'm gonna snack." So I mean, that food is kind of like intertwined in everybody's life. Obviously, we need to survive. So with Thanksgiving coming up, I would like a hook feast with some sides from other shows. Like, give me that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles pizza. That hook feast though is still one of that's top tier.
Yeah. I would like some flavored wallpaper from Willy Wonka.
These schnozberries taste like schnozberries. Yeah.
And I would also like to try Steve Martin's pizza in a cup from The Jerk. I've recently rediscovered how much I enjoy ramen, especially if I doctor it up a little bit. So I feel like pizza in a cup could be
pretty good.
Yeah, I have high hopes for it.
Pretty good. Oh man, I'm hungry now. I'm gonna go get a snack.
I'm not hungry, but I'm gonna go get a snack because I want food anyway. Thank you very much for that good conversation. But we'd like to hear from you too. We've been jabbering about made up food and Thanksgiving things for the last 30 minutes or something like that. So chime in, one of those things, on social media at Get Geekish. And what is one fictional food that you don't laugh at me that you would want to try right now? I mean,
tell me you're an 80s kid without telling me you're an 80s kid. Shout out. Too much MTV for you.
Hey, downtown Julie Brown raised me, all right? And don't get me started about Kennedy.
Oh, man.
Okay, so yeah, let us know at Geekish fictional foods that you think would be amazing to try, or if that just stumps you and you can't think of anything fun. What would your Thanksgiving round table be if you could select some characters to be around it to spend the holiday with? Let us know.
There's a lot of good ones.
Mm-hmm. Let us know in the comments at Get Geekish, and we wish you and yours, of course, a happy Thanksgiving. Derek, thanks for being my podcast host for, what do we got, 10,000 downloads now, 15,000 downloads now?
Woo!
We can be thankful for that, and we're thankful for you.
Very thankful, actually. Very thankful.
We are. So we appreciate it, and talk at you next week.
Bye!
Thanks for listening.
Nice.
We appreciate it very much. Don't forget to like and
Recording.
subscribe to the podcast.
Stop.
And speaking of more podcasts,
Stupid.
we got plenty of them. Check the links.